Hi everyone, my name is Courtney and I am Fiber Fox Studios, and today we are going to be working on our Mosaic Monday project, the Farahan Shawl Part 3. So if this is the very first video you are seeing, please follow the little link that I will have up here in this part of the screen to go to the introduction video. You need to start with the introduction video and move through the series in the appropriate order in order to make this shawl. Links to the Etsy shop along with the hook that I use and some additional information is always found down in the description. Timestamps, of course, are down there to help you move through. And as a reminder, if you need me to go faster or slower, you can always adjust the playback speed on your video that you're watching so that it moves in the speed that you need it to so that you can enjoy your experience. We're going to jump into the instruction now. Grab your existing work from last week. At the end of row 63, we ended with 274 total stitches, which worked out to 137 stitches per side. And that was the end of pattern number 37 section in the shawl. We are now moving on to row 64. You will join on in color A, and this begins the extension of the shawl. Row 64, after we've joined on with our 2 single crochets in the first stitch, we are doing a very simple row of single crochets. Of course, as always, we're working back loop only, and we're going to place 1 single crochet in every stitch, and then on our center chain 2 space, we're going to work our double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, and then single crochet all the way down the row. I'll meet up with you at the center and we'll work it together, but you can pause here and meet up with me when you are ready for the center, or jump ahead to row 65 if you don't need to see the instruction. We are now here at the center on row 64. So our last single crochet of our upside is placed here on the double crochet from the previous row. And now we work into that chain space just like normal, picking up our chain space and working 1 double crochet, chain 2, 1 double crochet. Now we resume working down row 64, making sure that our first single crochet of the row lands right here on that double crochet. Now we work a single crochet in each and every stitch. And you're going to end with 2 single crochets worked into the last stitch. At the end of row 64, you will now have a total of 278 stitches, which works out to 139 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 65. You will join on color B with 2 single crochets in the first stitch. Our repeat for row number 65 is very simple. We're working 1 single crochet in every stitch. And then of course at the center we will meet up, but you'll be doing the same as always, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet all into that chain space. We're now here at the center on row 65, so we work just like normal. Double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. And then of course we begin working our downside, single crochet in every stitch. Our first single crochet lands right here on top of that double crochet. Very important that you do not get off. That's how you'll mess up your count. Is you skip one of those little tight stitches. It's really easy to overlook them. And then off you are on all the rest of your rows. So you can pause here and meet up with me when you're ready for row 66. You of course will end row 65 that we're working right now by doing 2 single crochets into that very last stitch of the row. So we'll be back in just a moment. At the end of row 65, you will now have a total of 282 stitches, which works out to 141 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 66, so you will join on with color A, 2 single crochets in the first stitch. Row 66 begins by working 1 single crochet right here in this next stitch. And now we're going to begin our repeat for row 66, and that begins with 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3. And we will end the repeat by working 2 double crochets over these next 2 stitches. Here's number 1 and number 2. So now let's recap what we've done. Row 66 repeat begins with 3 double crochets, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, and we end with 2 double crochets. So if you count each of these stitches as 12 stitches in this repeat, and you are going to work this 10 more times for a total of 11 repeats on row 66, and then we will meet up for our center. After our 11th repeat, we're now going to work here at the center, and we do so by working 3 double crochets next. One, 2, and number 3. Four single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll work our center, double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet all into this chain space from back here on row 64. Chain 2 and double crochet. Now we're going to begin to work down, making sure that our single crochet that we're about to work lands right here on this double crochet. So we begin to work down with 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. Now we're going to resume our exact same repeat working it a total of 11 times, working down on row 66. So that repeat begins with 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. 1 double crochet. 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and number 3. And we end with 2 double crochets. 1 and number 2. So that ends the repeat. So you're going to continue to work this exact set of stitches 10 more times for the total of 11 repeats, and then we'll meet up at the end of the row to finish out. After our 11th repeat on the downside, we need to work our row end, and that will be done with 1 double crochet next, here in this next stitch. 1 single crochet into the next, and 2 single crochets into the last stitch. 1 and 2. We can bind off from here. At the end of row 66, we now have a total of 286 stitches, which works out to 143 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 67. Join on with color B, 2 single crochets into the first stitch. Row 67 begins by working 2 single crochets over these next 2 stitches. 1 and number 2. Now our repeat for row 67 begins with 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. 1 single crochet. 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. And we end the repeat by working 2 single crochets. 1 and 2. So that ends our repeat for row 67. So let's recap it. Our repeat for row 67 begins with 3 single crochets, 3 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 3 double crochets, and we end with 2 single crochets. So you will continue to work this exact set of stitches 10 more times for a total of 11 repeats, and then we'll meet up when we're ready to work towards the center. After our 11th repeat, we're now going to work our center. So we begin doing so with 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 2 single crochets, 1, 2, center, double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. Now we're going to begin working down here on row 67 with 2 single crochets, making sure the first ends on that, or starts, on that double crochet from the previous row. So that's where we'll begin working. 1 and 2, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 2 single crochets, 1, and number 2. Now we resume our repeat. It's the same exact as we use working up. So it begins with 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and number 3. 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 1 single crochet, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, and we end the repeat with 2 single crochets. One and 2. So now you're going to continue to work, repeating this exact set of stitches 10 more times for a total of 11 repeats, and then we'll meet up after the 11th repeat to work our row end together. After our 11th repeat, we'll now work our row end, and we do so by working 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and number 3. 2 single crochets in the last. And we're going to chain up 2 and bind off. At the end of row 67, we now have a total of 290 stitches, which works out to 145 stitches per side. We're now moving on to row 68, and you'll be joining on in color A, 2 single crochets in that first stitch. Row 68 begins now, and we're going to begin by working 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. number 1, and number 2. Now our repeat for row 68 will begin with 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 double crochet, and we end with 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that ends the repeat. Let's recap it real quick. Row number 68, repeat begins with 3 double crochets, 4 single crochets, 1 double crochet, and we end with 4 single crochets. So you are going to work this exact set of stitches 10 more times for a total of 11 repeats, and we'll meet up for our center. After our 11th repeat, we're now going to work our center, and we do so by working 3 double crochets right here, next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and last but not least, number 4, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. And now we will work the center, double crochet, chain 2, 1 and 2, and double crochet. Now we're going to begin to work down here on row 68, and we do 2 single crochets, making sure that the first single crochet lands on top of this double crochet. 1, 2, 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to resume our repeat, so it's the exact same repeat as what we did working up, and that repeat begins now with 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets to end that repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to keep working that exact set of stitches 10 more times for a total of 11 repeats, and then we'll work the row in together. After our 11th repeat, we're now going to do our row in for row 68 by working 3 double crochets. There's number 1. 2. And number 3. Two single crochets, 1, and number 2, and 2 single crochets into the last stitch, 1, 2. At the end of row 68, we will now have a total of 294 stitches, which works out to 147 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 69, so you will join on color B, 2 single crochets in the first. Row 69 begins by skipping this next stitch, so we're going to skip 1 stitch. Come here to this next one, and we're going to work 2 double crochets into this next stitch. One and number 2. 1 double crochet into this next stitch. And now we're going to repeat 3 single crochets, 3 double crochets, a total of 23 times. So that's going to be our repeat for row 69. So we're going to work it together. So the repeat begins with 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. That ends the repeat. So 3 single crochets, 3 double crochets, and you're going to work that exact set 22 more times so that you have a total of 23 repeats. And then we'll meet up to work our center. We're now here at the center on row 69, so we're going to work the last few stitches. We're going to need to do 3 single crochets next after our 23rd repeat. 1, 2, 3, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet. Now we will work our center, double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet, we're going to begin to work down with 1 single crochet, and it must be positioned on top of that double crochet, 1 double crochet, and now we're going to pick up on our repeat, working 3 single crochets, 3 double crochets, 23 times. So same repeat that we did working up. So it begins now. 1, 2, and number 3. And we end with 3 double crochets. There's 1, 2, 3. So you're going to continue to work this exact set 22 more times for your total of 23 repeats, and then we'll meet up at the end to finish out our row. After our 23rd repeat, we're going to end the row by working 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. 1 double crochet into the very next stitch. 2 double crochets worked here into the next stitch. 1 and number 2. And we will skip 1 stitch and move into the last stitch to finish out our row with 2 single crochets into that last stitch. 1 and number 2. At the end of row 69, you will now have 298 total stitches, which works out to 149 stitches per side. We're now going to move on to row 70, so join on color A, 2 single crochets in the first stitch. Row 70 begins by working 1 double crochet, and we're going to anchor this double crochet to the skipped stitch back here on row 68. So we do our double crochets just like normal. We just are going to have to get that stitch out. It's kind of hiding behind those double crochets. We're going to anchor into it, doing 1 double crochet. Now our repeat for row 70 begins. We're going to work this repeat 12 times, and it begins with 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 double crochet. 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, and we end with 1 double crochet. So that ends the repeat. Let's recap it really quickly. Row number 70's repeat began with 4 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, and we end with 1 double crochet. So you're going to work that exact set of stitches 11 more times for a total of 12 repeats. We've grown to that point where we can fit a whole nother repeat on the row, and then we'll meet up when you're ready for that center. After the 12th repeat, we're going to work our center, and we're going to do so by working 3 single crochets next. 1, 2, and number 3. Now we work our center just like normal, 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet. Now we're going to begin to work our downside, and we need to work 3 single crochets next. Make sure that that single crochet, the first one, lands right here on top of this double crochet from the previous row. 1, 2, and number 3. 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, and 1 double crochet. Now we're going to pick up on our repeat just like normal, same repeat that we did working up, and we're going to work that repeat again on our downside, and it begins with 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we end with 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet. 1, 1 single, and 1 double. That ends the repeat. So you're going to keep working on down your row. You will repeat that exact set 10 more times for a total of 11 repeats on our downside. And then we'll meet up in a moment to work our row end. To work the row end, which will be finishing out this last design by doing 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to work 1 double crochet, and we anchor to this skip stitch back here 2 rows below. So you might have to kind of push over those double crochets to expose that front loop. And we just work our double crochet right there. Now we work 2 single crochets into the last stitch of the row. 1 and number 2. So that ends our row. At the end of row 70, we now have a total of 302 stitches, which works out to 151 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 71. Join on in color B with 2 single crochets in the first stitch. We begin row 71 by working 1 single crochet into this next stitch. And now we begin the repeat for row 71 by working 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 2 double crochets, 1 and number 2, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, 1, 2, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3. 1 double crochet to end the repeat. So let's recap that repeat. Row 71's repeat began with 3 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, 3 single crochets. We end with 1 double crochet. You need to repeat this 11 more times for a total of 12 repeats working up, and then we'll meet up to work our center. After the 12th repeat, we're going to work our center, and we do so by working 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 1 double crochet, and 1 single crochet right here in the next stitch. Now we're going to work our center, double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. Now we're going to begin to work down, and we need to begin with 1 single crochet placed on top of this double crochet from our previous row, 1 double crochet into this next stitch, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 1 double crochet here into this next stitch, now we're going to pick up on our repeat. Our repeat going down is exactly the same as when we worked up, only we're going to be doing a total of 11 repeats working down. So we're going to begin that now with 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3, 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, 1, 2, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and we end with 1 double crochet. So you're going to continue to work on down your row, repeating that exact set of stitches 10 more times for a total of 11 repeats, and then we will meet back up to end the row. We'll now end row 71. After our final repeat, we are going to work 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3. 2 double crochets, 1, 2, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, 1, and 2. Now we'll end the row with 4 single crochets and then 2 single crochets in the last stitch. 1, 2, 3, and number 4. 2 single crochets into the last stitch. 1, 2. At the end of row 71, we will now have a total of 306 stitches, which works out to 153 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row number 72. Join on with color A, 2 single crochets in the first stitch of the row. Row 72 begins with 4 single crochets. So begin working those right now. Number 1, 2, 3, and number 4. Now our repeat for row number 72 will begin, and it's a pretty simple one. We're going to work 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets, 24 times. That's set. And so we're going to start with our 1 double crochet that starts the repeat. Now we work 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that ends our repeat. So row 72's repeat, very simple, 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets, and you're going to work this exact set 23 more times for a total of 24 repeats. And then we'll be meeting up to work our center. After our 24th repeat, we're going to work towards our center. So we need to work 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to work our center, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. Now we're going to begin to work down by working 3 single crochets, making sure that our first single crochet lands on top of that double crochet from the previous row. 1, 2, 3, And now we will resume our repeat working down. We're going to be working the same exact repeat, 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets. So we're going to begin working that repeat now together one time. So it begins with 1 double crochet. And then we'll work 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you will keep working that exact set of stitches 23 more times, and then we'll meet up at the end of your row. After our last repeat, we're going to end row 72 by working 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And of course, 2 single crochets into our last 1 and number 2. At the end of row 72, we now have a total of 310 stitches, which works out to 155 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 73. You're joining on in color B 2 single crochets in the first. Row 73 begins now, and we begin by skipping the next stitch, and we're going to work 2 double crochets into the following. So we will be skipping this stitch and moving here to the next, working 2 double crochets. One, 2. Now we will work 1 single crochet, and 2 double crochets. One, 2. Now we're going to begin our repeat for row 73, and that repeat begins by working 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 2 double crochets, 1, 2, 1 single crochet, and we're going to end the repeat with 2 double crochets. 1, 2. So now let's recap what we have done. Row number 73's repeat began with 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets. So you will continue to work this exact set of stitches 11 more times for a total of 12 repeats on the upside, and then we'll meet up at the center. After the 12th repeat, we're going to work towards our center now, and we're going to do so by working 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, and now we're going to work our center just like normal. Double crochet, chain 2, oops, double crochet. Now we're going to begin to work our downside, and we are going to be working our repeat in reverse this time. So let's just work it together. We begin the downside by working 1 single crochet right here on top of our double crochet from that previous row. Now we're going to work 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to begin our downside repeat. So like I said, it's just the same as what we did working up, but in reverse. So it begins with the 2 double crochets, 1, 2, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, 1, 2, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 1 double crochet, and we end with 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So let's recap our downside repeat for row 73. This time we began with our 2 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets. You will continue to work this exact set of stitches 11 more times for a total of 12 repeats, and then we'll meet up to work our row end together. We are now here at the end of row 73, and we're going to work 2 double crochets, 1, 2, 1 single crochet, now we're going to work 2 double crochets into this next stitch, 1, and 2. Skip the next stitch and go into the last and work 2 traditional single crochets into that same stitch. And that ends our row. At the end of row 73, we will now have a total of 314 stitches, which works out to 157 stitches per side. We are now working row 74, join on color A, 2 single crochets in the first stitch. Row 74 begins by working 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3. Now our repeat for row 74 begins with 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and number 4. 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, and we will end our repeat with 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's recap that. Row 74's repeat began with 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, and we end with 4 single crochets. You will work this exact set of stitches 11 more times for a total of 12 repeats, and then we'll meet up to work our center. After our 12th repeat, we're going to work towards our center by working 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, center, just like normal, working around that chain space from 2 rows below, 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet. Now we're going to begin to work down, and we do so by working 1 single crochet, making sure lands on top of that double crochet from the previous row, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we will resume our repeat on the downside, and it's exactly the same as what we worked moving up. So we begin with 1 double crochet to start the repeat, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, and we end with 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you will continue to work that exact set of stitches 11 more times for a total of 12 repeats, and then we'll meet up to end the row. After our last repeat, we will end our row by working 1 double crochet, and 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 2 single crochets in the very last stitch of the row. Do 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 do. At the end of row 74, we will now have a total of 318 stitches, which works out to 159 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 75. Join on color B 2 single crochets in the first. Row 75 begins by skipping the next stitch and moving here into this following stitch. And we're going to work 2 double crochets into the same stitch. 1, 2, 1 double crochet here into the following stitch. Now we're going to begin our repeat for row 75, and that repeat is very simple. We're going to work 3 single crochets, 3 double crochets over and over on down this row. So we begin the repeat now. 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3. 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. That ends our repeat. So you're going to continue to work 3 single crochets, 3 double crochets, 24 more times for a total of 25 repeats. And then we will meet up to work our center. After our 25th repeat, we're going to work 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, our center, same as always, double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. Now we're going to begin to work down, and we do so by working 1 single crochet here into this next stitch, 1 double crochet, now we are going to resume our repeat for our downside, and the repeat is exactly the same. 3 single crochets followed by 3 double crochets, and you're going to work that set of stitches 25 times total. So you begin with your 3 single crochets, 2 and 3, and then 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So keep working that exact set on down row 75, and we'll meet up to end our row together. After our last repeat, we will end row 75 by working 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 1 double crochet here into this next stitch, 2 double crochets here into the very next stitch. Here's 1, and then number 2. Skip 1 stitch and move here into the last with our 2 single crochets. And we are done with row 75. At the end of row 75, we now have a total of 322 stitches, which works out to 161 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 76. Join on color A with 2 single crochets into that first stitch. Row 76 repeat actually begins immediately this time. We are going to begin our repeat by working 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and number 4. 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to work 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 double crochet to end our repeat. So that ends our repeat. Let's recap it. Row number 76 repeat begins with 4 single crochets, 3 double crochets, 4 single crochets, and we end with 1 double crochet. You are going to repeat this exact set of stitches 12 more times for a total of 13 repeats on up our row. And then we'll meet up at the center. After our 13th repeat, we're going to work 4 single crochets. So we work 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 double crochet here in the center, chain 2, and 1 double crochet. Now we're going to begin to work our downside, and we're going to start out with 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And just make sure, I do want to note, you do have to make sure that when you begin, your first of the 4 single crochets is on top of this double crochet from the previous row. Now we're going to work 1 double crochet. And we will resume our repeat. We are working the same repeat that we worked the upside with on the downside. So that repeat begins with 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we end the repeat with 1 double crochet. So you're going to continue on down your row. You will repeat this exact set of stitches 11 more times for a total of 12 repeats. And then we will meet up at the end of the row to work the final leg of row 76. We are now here at the end of row 76 and we're going to work 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we end with 2 single crochets into the very last stitch of the row. And that ends row 76. At the end of row 76, you will now have a total of 326 stitches, which works out to 163 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 77. Join on color B and do 2 single crochets into that first stitch. Row 77's repeat begins immediately, and that repeat begins with 1 single crochet, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. 5 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we end the repeat with 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So let's recap what we've done. Row 77's repeat begins with 1 single crochet, 3 double crochets, 5 single crochets, and we end with 3 double crochets. So you're going to continue down your row repeating this exact set of stitches 12 more times for a total of 13 repeats, and then we will meet up for our center. After our 13th repeat, we're going to work towards our center by working 1 single crochet next, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. 2 single crochets, 1, 2. Now we'll work our center just like normal. 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet back into the same chain space. Now we're going to begin to work our downside, and we do so by working 2 single crochets. Make sure that your first single crochet lands on the top of that double crochet. 1, 2, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to resume our same repeat that we worked on the upside, and that repeat starts with 1 single crochet, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 5 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 3 double crochets to end that repeat. 1, 2, 3. So you're going to continue to work that exact repeat 12 more times for a total of 13 repeats, and then we will meet up for the last few stitches to end the row. We're going to end row 77 now by working 1 single crochet here into the next stitch, 2 single crochets into that last stitch of the row. At the end of row 77, you will now have a total of 330 stitches, which works out to 165 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 78, join on color A with 2 single crochets in the first stitch. Row 78 begins by working 1 single crochet. Now our repeat for row 78 begins by working 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 5 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we will end with 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So let's recap our repeat. Row 78's repeat began with 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 5 double crochets, and we end the repeat with 3 single crochets. You're going to continue to work up this side of the shawl, working a total of 13 repeats. So you'll be working this 12 more times, and then we will meet up to work our center. After our 13th repeat, we're going to work towards our center with 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3. We'll work 1 double crochet here into the next stitch. 2 double crochets worked into this next stitch. 1 and number 2. Now we will skip the next stitch and work right into the center, working 1 double crochet, chain 2, 1 double crochet, now we can begin to work down, and we're going to do so by skipping the next stitch. So we're going to skip this double crochet and work 2 double crochets here into this very next stitch. So right here. So there's 1 and number 2 worked into that same stitch. Now we'll work 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and number 3. Now we're going to resume our repeat, and it is exactly like it was working up. We're going to begin working down with the repeat starting with 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and number 3. 5 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. 4, and 5. 3 single crochets will end that repeat. 1, 2, and number 3. So you will continue to work that exact set of stitches 12 more times for a total of 13 repeats, and then we will meet up to end our row. After our last repeat, we're going to end our row by working 1 double crochet into this next stitch, 1 single crochet, and we end with 2 single crochets into the last. And that ends row 78. Row 78, once we've completed it, we have a total of 334 stitches, which works out to 167 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 79. You will join on with color B, 2 single crochets in the first stitch. Row 79 begins now, and we begin by skipping this next stitch, and we're going to work here into the second, working 2 double crochets into the same stitch. One and number 2. Now we're going to begin our repeat for row 79 by working 1 single crochet, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, 5 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll end the repeat with 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. That ends our repeat, so let's recap it real quick. Row 79's repeat began with 1 single crochet, 3 double crochets, 5 single crochets, and we end the repeat with 3 double crochets. So you are going to continue down your row or up your row, working this exact set of stitches 12 more times for a total of 13 repeats. And then we'll meet up for our center. After the 13th repeat, we're going to work the center by working work towards the center, 1 single crochet next, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and number 4. Now we will work our center just like normal. 1 double crochet, chain 2, 1 double crochet around that same chain space from 2 rows below. Now we're going to begin to work our downside, and just like always, we need to make sure our first stitch is landing here. We're going to start with 4 single crochets. So we position that first single crochet on the top of that double crochet. Now we keep working. Number 2, 3, and 4. 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to resume our repeat. We're working the exact same repeat as we did working up. So it is our same repeat worked 13 times, and that repeat begins now with 1 single crochet, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 5 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we end with 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So you will continue to work on down your row, repeating this exact set of stitches 12 more times so that you have a total of 13 repeats, and we'll meet up to work our row in together. At the end of row 79, we're going to work 1 single crochet into this next stitch. So it's right after our last repeat. 2 double crochets into the next stitch. 1 and 2. We will skip 1 stitch, so we're going to skip and work here into the last, doing our 2 single crochets. 1 and 2. At the end of row 79, you will now have a total of 338 stitches, which works out to 169 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 80. Join on color A with 2 single crochets into the first stitch of the row. Row 80 begins with 3 single crochets worked over these next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Now we begin our repeat for row 80, and that repeat begins with 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. 4 single crochets will end that repeat. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's recap what we've done. Row number 80's repeat began with 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 3 double crochets, and we end with 4 single crochets. You are going to continue to work this exact set of stitches 12 more times for a total of 13 repeats, and then we will meet up to work towards our center. After completing our 13th repeat, we're now going to work towards our center, and we just continue to work as much of the repeat as we can. So we're going to work 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 3 double crochets, oops, there's number 1, number 2, and last but not least, and number 3. Now we'll do 1 single crochet right here into this next stitch, work our center, double crochet, working around that chain 2 space, 1 double crochet, chain 2, and back into the same space with 1 more double crochet. Now we're going to begin to work down, and we do so by working 1 single crochet here into this next stitch. Want to make sure that your position is on top of that double crochet from the previous row. Now we're going to work 3 double crochets. Here's number 1, 2, and number 3. 4 single crochets. We'll start right here. There's 1, 2, and 3. Last but not least, number 4. Now we're going to begin our repeat for the downside, and that repeat is exactly the same as what we did working up. So it begins with 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and number 3. 4 single crochets to end the repeat. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that ends our repeat. You're going to continue to work 12 more sets of this stitch, of this repeat, and then you will be meeting up with me to end the row. You'll have a total of 13 repeats down your shawl. So we'll be back in just a moment to end the row. After our last repeat, we're going to end our row now, and we do so by working 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3. And then we work 2 single crochets into this last stitch. 1 and number 2. At the end of row 80, you will now have a total of 342 stitches, which works out to 171 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 81, so join on with color B and work 2 single crochets into the first stitch. Row 81 begins now, and we begin by working 2 double crochets, but we're going to be skipping this next stitch and coming here to the following, and that's where we're going to work our 2 double crochets into that same stitch. So here is 1, and then number 2, one double crochet here into the following stitch, now we're going to begin our repeat for row 81, and it's a very simple repeat. We are going to work 3 single crochets, 3 double crochets, total of 27 times that set. So we're going to begin now. The repeat begins with 3 single crochets, number 1, 2, 3, and 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. So that ends the repeat. So you're going to continue to work in sets of 3 single crochets, 3 double crochets, all the way up your row, working another 26 sets for a total of 27 repeats. And then we'll meet up to work towards that center. After our 27th repeat, we're going to work up here towards our center with 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to work 2 double crochets here into this next stitch. There's 1 double crochet, and here is number 2. We're going to skip this next stitch and work our center just like normal. 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet back into that same chain space. Now we begin to work our downside, and we do so by first skipping this next stitch, and we're going to work 2 double crochets here into this stitch. 1 and number 2. Now we're going to resume our repeat. It's the same repeat as we did working up. We're going to work 3 single crochets followed by 3 double crochets, a total of 27 times, working down this side of the shawl. So we're going to begin that now. We begin our repeat, 3 single crochets. There's 1, 2, and 3. 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. So keep repeating that exact set of stitches 26 more times for your total of 27 repeats, and then we'll meet up to end our row. After our 27th repeat on our downside, we're now going to work our row end, and we do so by working 3 single crochets next. 1, 2, and number 3. 1 double crochet here into this next stitch. 2 double crochets worked into the next stitch. 1 and number 2. We're going to skip 1 stitch and move here to the last, working our 2 single crochets into the last stitch of the row. And we are now ending row 81. At the end of row 81, you will now have a total of 346 stitches, which works out to 173 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 82. Join on color A with 2 single crochets into that first stitch. Row 82's repeat begins immediately on this row, so we're going to begin working our repeat, which begins with 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we end our repeat with 1 double crochet. So now let's recap what we have done. Row number 82's repeat began with 4 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, and we end with 1 double crochet. You're going to continue to work this exact set of stitches 13 more times for a total of 14 repeats, and then we'll meet up for our center. After our 14th repeat, we're going to work towards our center with 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we will work our center, double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. Just like normal. Now we begin to work our downside, and we do so by working 4 single crochets, making sure that that first single crochet lands on top of this double crochet right here from our previous row. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to begin our repeat for the downside here on row 82. And basically what we're doing is working that repeat in reverse this time. So we begin the repeat for the downside with 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, and we end the repeat with 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and number 4. So let's recap it real quick. Row 82's downside repeat begins with 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, and it ends with 4 single crochets. So you'll continue to work this exact set 13 more times for a total of 14 repeats on our downside, and then we'll meet up to end our row. After our 14th repeat on the downside, you will find that you have just the 1 stitch left. So we, of course, do our 2 single crochets in that final stitch to end row number 82. At the end of row number 82, you will now have a total of 350 stitches, which works out to 175 stitches per side. We're now moving on to row number 83. You will join on with color B, 2 single crochets in the first stitch. Row 83 begins by working 1 single crochet into the very next stitch, 2 double crochets into the next 2 stitches, 1 and number 2. Now we're going to begin our repeat for row 83, and that repeat begins with 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3. Now we'll work 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 2 double crochets, 1 and number 2. 1 single crochet, and we end the repeat with 2 double crochets. 1, 2. So let's recap what we have done. Row number 83's repeat began with 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 1 single crochet, and we end with 2 double crochets. So you are going to work this exact set of stitches 13 more times for a total of 14 repeats, and then we'll meet up at the center. After our 14th repeat, we're going to work towards our center with 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3. Now we'll work our center, same as always, double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. Now we're going to begin to work down, and we do so with 3 single crochets, making sure that our first lands on that double crochet right there from the row below. There's 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to begin our downside repeat, which is essentially the same repeat in reverse that we did working up. So we begin this time with 2 double crochets, 1, 2, 1 single crochet, and 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3. 1 double crochet, and we end our downside repeat with 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. So that ends our repeat. Let's recap it. Row 83's downside repeat begins with 2 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, and 3 single crochets. So you will continue to work that exact set of stitches 13 more times for a total of 14 repeats, and then we'll meet up to work our row end. After our 14th repeat on the downside, we are now going to end row 83, and we do so by working 2 double crochets into the next 2 stitches. One and number 2. One single crochet into this next stitch, and 2 single crochets into the very last stitch. At the end of row 83, we will now have a total of 354 stitches, which works out to 177 stitches per side. We are now going to move on to row 84. So join on color A, 2 single crochets in the first stitch. Row 84 begins now, and we do so by working 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now our repeat for row 84 begins, and it's very simple. We're going to work 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets, and that's our repeat. So we do that now. We start the repeat with 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you are going to repeat this exact set of stitches, 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets, 27 more times for a total of 28 repeats, and then we will meet up to work our center. After the 28th repeat, we're now going to work our center by working towards it with 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to work our center like normal. Double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet back into that same space. Now we're going to begin to work down on row 84, and we do so with 3 single crochets, making sure the first lands here on this double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. And now we can resume our repeat working down. It's the same as it was. Working up, we're going to work 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets, total of 28 times. Here's 1 double crochet. Now we work 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 single crochets. So you're going to continue to work this exact set of stitches 27 more times, and then we will meet up to end our row. After completing our final repeat, we're now going to work our row end, which ends by working 1 double crochet into this next stitch, and then we will end the row by doing 4 single crochets and then 2 single crochets into the last stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 single crochets in our last stitch. 1 and number 2. At the end of row 84, you will now have a total of 358 stitches, which works out to 179 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 85. Join on color B with 2 single crochets into the first stitch. Row 85 begins now, and we're going to begin our row by working 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. Let's get situated. All right. So now we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch and 2nd single crochet here into the following stitch. Now we will work 1 double crochet, our repeat for row 85 begins now. We're going to work the set of stitches 14 times, and it begins with 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and we will end with 1 double crochet worked here into this next stitch. So that ends our repeat. So let's recap what we've done. Row 85's repeat begins with 3 single crochets, 5 double crochets, 3 single crochets, and we end with 1 double crochet. So you will continue to work this exact set of stitches 13 more times so that we have a total of 14 repeats, and then we will meet up to work our center. After our 14th repeat, we're now going to work towards our center by working 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 3, 1 single crochet. Now we'll work our center, double crochet, chain 2 double crochet into the same chain space, chain 2 and double crochet. Now we're going to begin to work our downside here on row 85, and that begins by working 1 single crochet, making sure we land it right here on top of this double. 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and number 3. Now we will work our downside repeat, and that repeat begins by doing 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and we'll end the repeat by working 5 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and number 5. So that ends our repeat. So let's recap what we have done. Row number 85's downside repeat, so working down, begins with 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, and we end with 5 double crochets. So you're going to continue to work this exact set 13 more times for a total of 14 repeats, and then we'll meet up to finish out our row. After our last repeat on our downside, we're now going to end our row, and we do so by working 3 single crochets next. 1, 2, and 3. 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, and then we end with 2 single crochets in the last 1 and 2. At the end of row 85, we now have a total of 362 stitches, which works out to 181 stitches per side. We are now moving on to row 86. Join on color A, 2 single crochets in the first stitch. Row 86 begins by working 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Now our repeat for row 86 begins. We're going to be working this 14 times, and it begins with 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 9 single crochets will end that repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So that ends our repeat. So let's recap it real quick. Row number 86 begins, our repeat begins with 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 9 single crochets, ends it. So if you take a look at what you're really doing, you are just framing out doing your double crochets around this one lonely double crochet from the previous row, and then it's single crochets straight across. And then your double crochets frame out around the next little lonely guy, and you keep on working that same method basically, and you will finish out this row in no time. We will meet up, of course, at the center after you've completed your 14th repeat of this set, and we'll work that center together and then start that downside together as well. So see you guys in just a moment. After our 14th repeat, we're going to work our center, or work towards our center here on row 86. So we begin doing that by working 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, and we will work 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and number 7. Now we will work our center just like normal. Double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet, all under that same chain space. Now we begin to work our downside, and we do so by starting out with 7 single crochets. As always, make sure that first single crochet lands on the top of this double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now we resume our same repeat, working down 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 9 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and number 9. So you're going to continue to work this exact set of stitches 13 more times so that we have a total of 14 repeats, and then we'll meet up to end our row. After your 14th repeat, we're going to end row 86 by working 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, 2 single crochets in the last stitch. 1 and 2. So that ends the last row of the shawl, of the actual mosaic design. So now from here, we're going to be moving on to securing our tails and doing the very simple border that I am putting on this. It's just single crochets and slip stitch. We're going to go into that instruction now, but let's do a full picture, as much as I can get in the camera, of what your work will look like. My table is just not big enough to get all of it into the camera's view, but at the end of row 86, you now have 366 total stitches, which is 183 stitches per side. We're now going to jump into the knotting and binding off our tails. So I'll show you guys real quick how to handle your tails, and then we will jump right into the way that we're going to border this piece. We need to work on our starting side first. So whatever side, whether you work this left or right, it doesn't matter which way you worked it, but I would start with the starting side tails. So for me, that's the tails that are on the right side at the top line of the shawl, the straight end. So what I need to do is actually secure these completely, doing the knotted bind off, because these tails are just kind of worked in as part of that first single crochet. They are not truly secure, so you don't need to skip this step. So we work from our back side because our tails need to be towards the back, and you can start at the anywhere you want really, but I'm going to start at this row that we just completed. And what we're going to do is make sure that we're keeping our tails within the same color row when we're kind of weaving them in and doing the knotted bind off. So the first step, what I need to do to start, is to actually get in to this stitch, and I just pick one leg of the stitch somewhere in the back, and I'm going to grab my tail and I want to pull it through like this, bringing up a loop. And now I'm going to chain 2, 1 and 2, pull my tail on out through that last chain that I made, and now we cinch it down. Now, I'm going to do this a few times on each of my tails. It's up to you how you choose to bind off and weave in your tails, but I really, really, really recommend that you at least do a knotted bind off one time minimum on every row at the start and end. So that's how we were ending our rows. So we're just doing that same thing here on the starting side. Once I feed this in a few times and make it where I feel that it's secure enough, because we are going to wear this, so it's going to get a little pulling and tugging on it. So we want to make sure we have our knots there to secure those tails down. I'm going to do this one more time. So just pull up a loop, pick a spot, and chain 2. It's often easier to do this with a smaller hook as well. I'm just not going to get up and get one. So once I have done that, if you want to from here, once I've done the knotted bind off a few times, from here you can weave in the rest of this tail. I'm going to be clipping this off, and to show you what that looks like in the end when you clip them off, I'm going to pull down here to this side. So when I'm done doing the knotted bind off and I bring it in some, and if you have a long tail, you can bring it into different points on the back here and knot and then clip that. But it has these little pieces left. But if you look over here where I've worked a little bit more on this off camera, those are a lot less noticeable. And the only thing I've done to these tails after clipping is I've rubbed it in between my thumb and index and kind of fluffed those tails to the point where they're just not as noticeable. I don't really know how to explain it. They're still there, but they don't kind of pop out the same anymore after you just rub on them a little bit. So now they're much more disappeared. Now, obviously, some of you are not going to like that and you're going to want to sew in, so you can do that, but we need to do a knotted bind off on all of our tails, and sew them in, clip them off, whatever way we choose to do it. But we need to do that on every single one, and then we're going to meet back up for one final time to do row 87, which is our bordering row, where we're going to do our single crochets and slip stitches. So for me in the video, it's going to be seconds, but obviously we need to work off camera for this and get these tails out of our way, secured and good to go, so that we can move on to the border portion of our project. So you're going to just sit there working on those tails, knotting them, weaving them in a bit. I'm going to do one more here in the blue to give you an idea. So there's my tail coming out here on the back side. And I just, whatever I think I can get into that's closest to my tail, that's what I'm picking up. So I've picked up that part of the stitch, and now I just grab, pull up that loop, chain 1, chain 2, and then pull that on through, and grab and push down to cinch it. That's all you have to do. So we're going to do this off camera, the rest of our tails, and then I will see you guys in just a moment. So once you have cleaned up all of your tails and you no longer have tails on your top edge of the shawl, we're going to do a very simple border edge. It's nothing crazy, just something to kind of finish it out. So we want to join on just like normal on your normal starting edge, exactly how you have been. We're going to join on color B here, and I'm going to show you the slip stitch that you're going to do, and then we'll meet up again at the corner at the center to show you how to do the center stitches. But we'll join on now. So just like you have been, we're going to make sure that we're getting into our first stitch of the row. So you got to get completely into that stitch. Mine was a little tight to get into. So once we're in, all we need to do now is grab color B, and we join on with a single crochet. So our normal join on, pulling up that loop, grab tail and working, chain 1, you can allow that tail to fall, go back into your stitch and finish out your single crochet to join on. Once we have joined on, all we need to do is work a slip stitch in all of our stitches up towards the center. So that's all you need to do. Pull up your loop and pull on through the loop that's on our hook. Now we want to make sure we just stay nice and even on our tension. We don't need to be really tight. You don't need to be really loose. Just keep it nice and even and get a flow going. And you will just slip stitch all the way down, and we'll meet up here in just a moment at our center. We're now here at the center. We've worked a slip stitch in all of our stitches. So now all we need to do is work actually into this chain space right here, doing a single crochet, just a regular one, right around that chain space, chain 2, and single crochet back into the same chain space. Now we're going to resume our slip stitch. So we make sure that we start the slip stitch in this double crochet from the previous row, going into its back loop, and we begin to slip stitch. So you continue working down with a slip stitch in every stitch, and we'll meet up at the end when you have one stitch left. And we'll work that together and get started on the final leg of our border, which happens on the top side of the shawl. Now we are here at the end of the row, as you can see. So I have just this one stitch left. I've slip stitched into that stitch right here that was part of the 2 single crochets that ended this row. And now we're going to work into the complete stitch, doing a single crochet into this very last stitch. Now we chain 2, 1 and 2 to turn our corner. And we are now turning our work so that our flat side, the top edge, is going to be up here. That's where we're working now. So we've got a chain 2 on our hook. We're going back into the same first stitch. We're Just going to do it on the top side of it basically. Or it would be the side of the stitch. And we do a single crochet. This is how you're going to handle your next corner as well at the end of the shawl. So from here, we begin placing a single crochet in every row basically. Because if you think about what you're working on, the top edge is it's the rows. It's the end of the row and the beginning of the row. So we're going to begin working this top edge, doing a traditional single crochet in all of our sides of our row. We are going into a side of a single crochet essentially. So let's just work it. That way you're not confused by the words that I'm saying. So we go here to the next stitch. So I'm actually working in the side of the stitch, I guess. And do a single crochet. Into the next one. And you can feel your hook will find the spot, because we are in the side of the stitch, and we do a single crochet. Do not pull them tight. Allow it to lay. You don't want it super loose again, but allow it to lay just over in the direction that we need it. It's just going to set nice on top of that row. Now we go here to the next. That is all we have to do. One single crochet in the top of each row. As you work on down your top edge doing the single crochet, one telltale way to check and make sure you're not going too tight, when you lay your work flat, if it's curling up on you or bunching in, you are working too tight up here. So that's really the only tip I can give you. Each person's tension's a little bit different, and I know some people tend to crochet extremely tight, and if you do that, you'll cause this to curl. And we don't want that. The shawl lays perfectly flat as it's been designed. So just lay your work down. Just make sure you don't see any curl. If you do, loosen up your tension. Change your hook size. You can go up a hook size for this if you need to. Or half hook size is what I'd recommend. I wouldn't jump to a full hook size right out the gate. But you can adjust your tension by changing your hooks size if you're having an issue and you feel like it's getting too tight and starting to draw in. So I just wanted to give you that tip as we work towards the center. Now here at the center area, I wanted to show this part since we do have some double crochets and things in here. And some of you may have questions on how to place your single crochets. You just work into the side just like we've been doing. If you stretch your work apart, you're going to find little spots that are perfect to go into. That's what I go around. So right there, I'm actually going around a double crochet. And now I'm going to stretch and push apart. And here's another one. I'm going to go around that. And if you stretch and push apart, there's another one right here. And same thing, kind of take a look. Get in there. Where's the best place? I'm going to go right in here. Now here's that, our magic loop, magic circle. See how when you look, there's just a tiny little string of it. And we do one single crochet in there. Then continue on down. Stretch and pull, stretch and pull. Now we're back to where we can see better of where we're going to need to work. We know we're just kind of going in around the side of that stitch. So the rows, I'm working the single crochet on the edge of the row. That part's a lot easier, I think, because you can see exactly where to go. Center could be a little more tricky. But when you are done, it's definitely going to be worth it. And like I said, keep laying your work down. Make sure you're not cinching it in. You don't want to go too tight. You don't want to have an issue with your top edge. So we'll meet up one last time at the end of your top edge when finishing out, so we can close the round together and finish off. So here at the end of the row, we have just this section left, this last stitch, I mean. And we go into it and we do a single crochet. So we're right here at the corner. Now we chain 2, and we're going to slip stitch to that first single crochet that we made when we started this round. And that closes our round off, so you can clip your yarn. And of course we have to sew in this tail as well. But you're pretty much done from here. You can do the hidden join whatever way you like to do it. Doesn't matter to me. And just to show what it looks like with that slip stitch edge on the bottom, the single crochet edge on the top. And that is how it looks. That's why I like to do it. I feel like it breaks up the top edge and you don't notice so much that we're switching colors every row. So that's my preferred method for finishing out anything like this. You could even go a step further to do a slip stitch across the top edge if you want, so that you had a real clean look. It would give you, you know, this looking stitch right here on the top edge. And I did that on one of my shawls, but that's not written in the pattern. It's not necessary, but that's my other suggestion if you do want to hide it a little bit better. But I feel like once you add color B on, it just breaks it up and it's not noticeable anymore. And I really like how it turned out. And hopefully you did too. So if you did, please, please, please give me a thumbs up on this video. This series has taken me 3 full weeks, working 40 hours on each video. It has been a long haul. So please, at the very least, please give me a thumbs up. And if you enjoyed it, and if you could leave me a comment down below letting me know that you enjoyed it, or if you post a picture, please tag me so I can see. I'm really excited to see what colors everyone ends up choosing and how their shawls come out. So I really hope you have enjoyed it, and I cannot tell you enough how much I appreciate you for sitting through all these hours of videos. I know it was a long one, but your time is appreciated. I sincerely hope that you are going to enjoy your finished project. And until next time, bye for now.